Have you ever noticed how the car you adored last summer now seems like an old, dreary piece of tin? Look at Mark. He's driving down the highway in his black SUV, barely 3 years old. The interior still smells of expensive trim, the engine runs like a charm, and the exterior shines from a car wash. It's a great car, almost paid off, and has never let him down. But at a traffic light, a redesigned model from the same brand pulls up next to him. It has a slightly more aggressive bumper, new wheels, and a huge digital cockpit that glows through the tinted windows. And in that moment, Mark suddenly feels like an outsider. He looks at his dashboard and sees not a reliable mechanism, but a symbol of his stagnation. The calculation is already running in his head. If he trades in his car now, he'll have to take out another 6-year loan and pay the bank $400 more a month. Mark doesn't need a new car. He needs to get rid of that gnawing feeling of inadequacy, which was professionally instilled in him in 30 seconds of a commercial during a football match. His current car didn't get slower or worse in that minute, but his self-confidence was cracked by the marketing code. My name is Lily, and I'm here to unmask the most sophisticated financial trap of our time. We're used to thinking we're buying comfort and power, but in reality, we're voluntarily signing up for a lifelong lease on our own ego. If you've ever caught yourself thinking that your income is growing, while your free time and real capital are dwindling, congratulations. You've become the primary resource for a system of planned discontent. This is a psychological war waged against your wallet by the world's best minds. And today, I'll use numbers to prove to you that your desire to appear successful is the main reason you're still a slave to your office chair and not the master of your destiny. Let's put aside the glossy brochures and get to the numbers that car dealership managers prefer to keep quiet about. The average man in the United States changes his car every 5 to 6 years. This is presented as common sense. The warranty has expired, time for an upgrade, but consider the real cost of this decision. The average monthly payment for a new car in America is now approaching $850, almost $900 a month for the privilege of sitting on slightly fresher leather. If you follow this habit your entire life, you'll simply be feeding corporations over $500,000 in cash, $500,000 down the drain, just so other drivers in traffic think you've got it all figured out. But the worst part isn't even losing that $500,000. It's the magic of compound interest. That's what they're really stealing from you. If instead of trading in a perfectly good car for a shiny new one every few years, you'd invest the difference in payments in a regular index fund, you'd have $2.5 million by the time you turned 40 or 50. Think about that number, $2.5 million. That's your absolute freedom, the ability to retire at any time, a debt-free education for your children. But instead, you choose the smell of new car wash chemicals and a different shape of LEDs. You buy the illusion of success at the cost of your real wealth. How do they make us believe this nonsense? It all starts with the concept of visual aging. Designers deliberately change the features of cars so that a 3-year-old model looks like a throwback to the previous decade. This isn't an evolution of form. It's a way to make your current choice visually unbearable for you. You're taught that a car isn't a tool, but a direct reflection of your masculinity and social status. The slogan, "You are what you drive," is so deeply ingrained in our subconscious that we're willing to toil overtime for years to pay for a pile of metal that loses 20% of its value the second you drive it off the dealer's lot. Do you know what digital suffocation means? Modern cars are increasingly resembling computers on wheels, and manufacturers shamelessly exploit this. They deliberately configure the software so that older models can't take advantage of new interface features, even if the processor inside allows them. They create artificial discomfort. The menu seems a little slower, the maps aren't as clear, the phone integration starts to glitch. This isn't a technical limitation. It's a software noose that's tightened around your neck until you come to the dealership for another dose of technological superiority. You're made to fear your own car as soon as the warranty expires. They whisper to you, repairs will cost more than the car itself. Get rid of it while it's still worth something. This is the auto industry's biggest lie. Modern engines, with proper care, can last for decades. But the system doesn't need reliable things. The system needs endless payment. You're evicted from your own property so you can get back in line for a loan that will squeeze the next few years of your life out of you. And the saddest thing is, most men don't even realize they're running a race where the finish line keeps moving. Because as soon as you buy that new model with the predatory headlights, the next one will already be approved in secret design bureaus. And 3 years from now, It will turn your current pride and joy into obsolete junk. But let's step inside Mark's house as he returns in that shiny crossover. He enters the kitchen, and that's where the second stage of the takeover of his reality begins. His refrigerator requires a firmware update, his washing machine sends notifications about buying branded cleaning products, and his coffee machine refuses to brew because the built-in chip didn't recognize the original capsule. We're used to calling this a smart home, but in corporate parlance, it's lifetime customer annuity. Companies no longer want to sell you a product once. They want to turn every object in your home into a terminal for accepting your money. You buy a printer, but it won't print without a monthly ink charge. You buy a car with heated seats, but that feature is locked until you pay an additional $18 a month for a subscription. It's economic cannibalism. If you simply saved those $3,000 a year spent on invisible digital services and unnecessary apps, you'd have an extra $600,000 by the time you retired. But the system is designed to never let that money stay in your hands. You're being taught that owning anything is too difficult. You'll have nothing and you'll be happy is a business plan being implemented right now in your bedroom. How do they hold your attention? Through ecosystem slavery. You buy one gadget and it requires you to buy a dozen more. Your headphones only work with a phone of the same brand. Your light bulbs require a special hub and your data is locked in the cloud, impossible to migrate from. You're surrounded by digital walls, and the more things you buy, the more expensive it is to switch brands. Mark is a hostage who paid for his own camera. But there's a more subtle mechanism, aesthetic degradation. Have you noticed how quickly modern things wear out? It's not a lack of technology, it's a deliberate choice of materials. Plastic that becomes cloudy, fabric that loses its appearance. They create visual noise and discomfort for you so that in a year, you'll look at your tablet and feel disgust. You don't want them to physically break. You want them to become unpleasant. The most cynical thing is how they exploit your concern for security. They tell you, update your device to stay protected, but every update slows it down. They tell you it's eco-friendly by removing the charger from the box, but they release a new model every year, creating mountains of waste. It's a one-sided game where your moral principles are used as leverage over your budget. We live in a world where your TV listens to your conversations to push you ads for the latest upgrade. We've traded our privacy and financial independence for the ability to turn on the lights with our voice. But the price of this freedom is your future. The system wants you to be the perfect consumer, working yourself to death to pay bills for things you don't actually own. The anxiety you feel when you look at your bills is no accident. The world has become like a game where the rules change every time you start winning. We've surrounded ourselves with things that were supposed to give us freedom, but they've become our guardians. Have you ever wondered why, despite all the gadgets, we have less and less time for real life? We've been taught that security is also a commodity. We pay for insurance that doesn't cover risks and for security systems that only create the illusion of peace. And this brings us to the biggest deception at the top of this entire pyramid. We're forced to run faster just to stay in the same place. While you're saving for a dignified retirement, buying new versions of a secure future, the very value of your efforts drains like the battery in an old smartphone. It's the same cycle as with a car, only on a lifetime scale. True financial freedom is the global market's worst enemy. If you stop buying unnecessary things, you'll become unmanageable. That's why trillions are spent on making you constantly feel like, I need something else. The real secret hidden behind the flashy presentations is that your financial freedom is the global market's worst enemy. If you ever stop and decide your 5-year-old machine is enough, if you realize your current computer can handle everything, if you simply cancel 10 unnecessary subscriptions, you'll become unmanageable. Someone with accumulated capital and no bank debt is no longer obligated to agree to any terms of the game. That's why the industry spends trillions of dollars a year to keep you constantly feeling that itch. I need something more. My current level is a failure. They're not selling you things. They're selling you a temporary painkiller for the feelings of inferiority they themselves have created. Mark finally puts his tablet aside and turns off notifications. At that moment, a silence descends on his living room that frightens him more than any commercial. Because in this silence, he is forced to acknowledge the bitter truth. His life for the past 10 years has become an endless servicing of inanimate objects. We have become a nation of renters of our own destiny. We pay for the right to breathe air-conditioned office air so we can earn the next payment on the car that will take us to a home filled with devices for which we continue to pay a monthly toll. This is 21st century digital serfdom, where credit limits and firmware updates are used instead of chains. But the way out of this maze doesn't start with buying another motivational book or taking a new investing course. It begins with one fundamental realization: your old self is your true strength. Every year you go without a new car loan, every month you ignore the urge to upgrade your perfectly functioning laptop, is a giant brick in the wall of your true independence. We must reclaim ownership of things that don't require constant payments and lives that don't require the constant approval of social media algorithms. Your unwillingness to participate in this madness is the most effective way to preserve your future. Look at the concept of retirement savings through the same lens of planned obsolescence. For decades, we've been told, invest in these funds, trust these indexes, believe in the system. But the system itself is built on inflation, a process that makes your money tomorrow worth less than what you earned yesterday. It's the same cycle as with a new smartphone, only extended over the course of your entire life. You're forced to run ever faster and work ever harder, just so that in old age you can afford at least the same level of comfort you enjoy now. While you're saving for a decent retirement, buying ever newer versions of the promise of security, the very value of your titanic efforts melts away, like a phone's battery in the cold. True greatness doesn't require annual design updates. True success isn't measured by the number of cameras on the back of your gadget or the screen size of your car. It's measured by the number of days per year when you can say no to any manipulation, any external pressure, and still remain completely calm and confident in your future. Your life isn't a demo version that requires constant upgrading for money, nor is it a subscription with a limited trial period. It's the one unique asset that truly belongs to you until you voluntarily decide to exchange it for another shiny, beautifully packaged trinket. The next time you see an aggressive headline about something in your life being hopelessly outdated or in need of immediate replacement, just remember Mark and his $340,000 that could have been his freedom, but instead became a pile of plastic in the dustbin of technological history. You don't have to run this race. You can quit right now, preserving everything you have and increasing what truly matters. Stop fueling other people's billions and become the architect of your own wealth. Freedom doesn't smell like a new car interior. It smells like the silence of that moment when you no longer have anything to prove to anyone. The choice has always been and remains yours. The marketing machine simply does everything it can to make you forget it. Now that you see these invisible strings, you finally have a chance to cut them and emerge victorious. Take back your time, take back your money, and most importantly, take back your right to be content with what you already have. If you feel like this conversation has changed your perception of reality, then the first step toward your true independence has already been taken. Take care of yourself and your future. See you there.